We're going to call the public hearing. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, take roll, please.
Trustee Pierce?
Present.
Trustee Antioch?
Here.
Trustee Yost?
Here.
Trustee Dominier?
Here.
Trustee Paulus?
Here.
Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Hanson?
Here. Okay, we have a public hearing on the annexation of properties commonly known as the 23512 West Beach Grove Road and 41062 North Illinois Route 83 and 410074 North Illinois Route 83. That's pin number 02-17-306-020, 02-17-306-021, and 0217-306-025. Does anybody want to speak for or against? We'd have to be sworn in, so if you'd like to raise your right hand and be sworn in, and the clerk will swear you in. So if you're either for or against.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give in this hearing is factual to the best of your knowledge?
Yes. Who's going to present? Is there anybody representing the property owners? Jim?
You want me to present now, or when we cover it in public meeting?
Public.
I don't have any comment about it,
Okay.
just the hearing.
Okay, is there any board members have any comment? Trustee Pierce?
I know we read out the PIN numbers, but can we get an explanation of exactly where this is?
The west side of Route 83, just north of Beach Grove Road. It's where the Dupre Motel is and the Ed Glenn, E.H. Glenn well drilling company with that little building that's on their property.
Does it also include where there used to be a lawyer's office or a little tax office?
Yeah, that's the little building that's
That's
on
the one you're
Glenn's
talking
property.
about? Okay. Trustee Masek, any questions?
No comment, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominion?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Poulos?
No questions, Your Honor.
And Trustee Johnson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. There's nobody speaking on behalf. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Closing the hearing.
Closing the hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion by Trustee Pierce, second by Trustee Johnson. Roll call, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Mason?
Yes.
Yost?
Yes.
Dominier?
Yeah.
Paulus?
Yes.
Johnson?
Aye.
6 voting yes, motion's carried. Okay, we're going to stand immediately for our Village Board of Trustees regular meeting. Stand for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce?
Present.
Trustee Mason?
Here.
Trustee Yost?
Present.
Trustee Dominier?
Here.
Trustee Paulus?
Here.
Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Hanson?
Here. Okay, I have a couple items on my report tonight. First, we have a proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. Lori? You can.
Whereas the Village of Antioch and the First Fire Protection District of Antioch Township are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the Antioch community. And whereas U.S. fire departments responded to 481,500 home fires in 2019, according to the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA. Whereas U.S. home fires resulted in 2,980 civilian deaths in 2019 and 13,900 injuries. And whereas newer homes are built with lightweight materials that burn faster than older home construction. And whereas many of today's products and furnishings produce toxic gases and smoke when burned, making it impossible to see and breathe within moments. And whereas these conditions contribute to a much smaller window of time for people to escape a home fire safely, with people having as little as 1 to 2 minutes to escape from the tiny smoke alarm sounds. And whereas a home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation. And whereas a home fire escape plan plan includes 2 exits from every room in the home, a path to the outside from each exit, smoke alarms in all required locations, and a meeting place outside where everyone in the home will meet upon exiting. And whereas, a home fire escape plan should be developed by all members of the household. And whereas, practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in a real fire situation. Whereas, Antioch's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas, Antioch residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2020 Fire Prevention Week works to educate everyone about the simple but important actions they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe. Therefore, I, Lawrence Hanson, Mayor of Antioch, do hereby proclaim October 4th through 10th, 2020 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this community. I urge all people of Antioch to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it twice a year.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I have a proclamation for Native American Heritage Month.
Whereas the history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples. Whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today. Whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States. And whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month. And whereas, in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned. Therefore, I, Lawrence Hanson, Mayor of Antioch, do hereby proclaim November as the National American Indian Heritage Month in the Village of Antioch.
Thank you. Okay. And then lastly, I have a little summary background resolution updating the appointments of our Economic Development Task Force. The Economic Development Task Force was created in 2017 with 11 members. The purpose of the task force was to assist the village in economic development efforts and to provide the business community with a voice in economic development efforts. Currently, there are 5 vacancies on the commission, and the mayor is proposing to appoint the following individuals to the task force. That's Heather Fensel, that's owner of the Family Heirlooms Antiques. Art Wickline, he owns Antioch Pizza. And Alex Kalamanis, he's the general manager at Cunis Ford. So those are the 3 new members. We still have 2 vacancies that we'll try to fill. And Laura, you want to read the resolution? Okay, I'll need a motion first.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by trustee Dominiac, second by trustee Pierce. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor. Very good people.
Trustee Mason?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Polis?
No questions, Your Honor.
And trustee Johnson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Laura. We'll just take a vote. Let's take the roll call.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paulus,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, 6 voting yes, no no's, motion's carried. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board? We do have 2 people on the meeting right here, but we'll take those when they come up. Anybody else wishing to address us at this time? Okay. We have 1 item on the consent agenda. That's the approval of the September 14th, 2020 regular meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Masek. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Pauls. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Pauls?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paulus,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, no no's, motion's carried. Under regular business, first item, consideration to ratify the payments of September 28, 2020 accounts payables is prepared by staff. I'll need a motion in a second.
I move to approve the payment of accounts payable and manual checks in the amount of $80,745.20.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Polo, second by trustee Dominiac. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek?
No questions.
Trustee Yost?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Polis?
No questions.
And trustee Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Polis,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
6 voting yes, no no's, that motion's carried. Consideration of payments of accounts payable is prepared by staff. I'll need a motion in a second.
Mayor, I did the second one first, so I'm gonna go back and do the first one.
Okay,
Move to ratify payment of accounts payable in the amount of $1,168,543.52.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Johnson. Can you clarify a few of those larger items since it's a large?
Lake County Public Works is a big one. Jim, is that,
That's for treatment.
that's
probably.
that's for the treatment.
Yeah, you have a larger payment of $364,000, which are impact fees due to the school district. That's the biggest invoice. Lake County Public Works invoice. I believe those are also connection fees payable to County of Lake for sewer connection. So that accounts for, over $700,000 of that. Or pass through. Those are developer costs paid to us pass through.
So those aren't actually coming out of general fund.
No, those are developer contributions that we pass to the respective agencies.
All right, thank you. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
I have a procedural question for the attorney. I didn't catch it till trustee Polis said that he had done them out of order. Is it possible to change my vote on the first one that was done out of order?
We can ask for a revote under this circumstance.
Okay, I'd like to do that.
So which one are we going to vote on first then? Just to make the record clear. Item 3 or item 2?
I would say since we're on item 1 now, we just continue to item 1 vote and then we go back and redo item 2.
Item 1 was the minutes.
We're on item 2.
Well, that's what I mean. Item 1 was under the consent agenda. Item 2 was the one that we're on right now, and item 3 was that stuff that was the one that was done out of order.
Actually, it's 2 and 3, Scott, if you
2
look
and
under regular
3.
business. So
there's the ratification of payables, and then there's accounts payable.
you want to do the,
Let's do the one we're on, which is number 2.
let's do the number 2. Yeah.
The ratification of the September 28th, 2020 accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $1,168,543.52. Yes?
Yes.
That is my understanding where we're at right now.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second on that now?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll call.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Polis,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye. 6 voting yes, motion is carried. So we're going to go back to the $80,745.20 and revote. And that would be for the,
That would be my request, yes.
and that's to, that's the payables, or which one is that now?
That's item 3, consideration of a payment of accounts payable as prepared by staff.
Okay. Okay, roll call.
Do we have a motion? We need to
Okay, motion.
clarify. We've got a motion and a second for the revote.
I would make a motion for a revote on item number 3 due to it being done out of order.
I'll second, since I motioned the first time.
Okay, roll call.
Pierce,
No.
Mason,
You're voting for no for the revote?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right, Masick. Thank you. I'm voting yes for the revote.
Basic.
It'll be a long day.
No.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Poland,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, 5 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion is carried. So somebody want to bring up the item to vote on?
I move to approve the payment of accounts payable and manual checks in the amount of $80,745.20.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Dominiac. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
No.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Poland,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, 5 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion is carried. Consideration of emergency ordinance ratifying the mayoral declaration of emergency relating to coronavirus, ordinance number 20-10-30. The motion and a second. Waiving the second reading.
So moved. Waiving the second reading.
Trustee Dominiac made the motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by trustee Yost. Any questions? Trustee Pierce?
Are we still getting anything out of the federal government or state government? Or are we just making these declarations to make the declarations, or what are we at this point with these declarations?
One of the things that we get out of it, trustee Pierce, is the ability to have Zoom meetings and not have to have all of them in person. And that protects us in the event that there is a the Planning and Zoning Board, for example, the chairman and several of the members have been attending remotely in a mixed meeting. It allows for that, which would not otherwise be permitted. As well as, if there are additional declarations or distributions of funds, may Congress ever get around to figuring out what it is they're doing in Washington on that topic. There may be additional money that is distributed to the village, but in order to qualify for that, you've got to have these declarations of emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Long. I appreciate that.
Trustee Mason?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
I have a related question. I know that on our agenda, we speak to the fact that anyone that comes into this building has to socially distance and wear a mask. And I think then if we are requiring the people that are sitting on that side of the dais to wear a mask, that I would respectfully ask that our board members and staff also wear masks to be in compliance with what we say here is the requirement. Certainly I understand that when people are speaking, it might be more comfortable for them to remove their mask, but if we're going to approve a declaration based on the governor's executive orders, that's one of his part of that. And so I would just suggest that we might want to keep our masks on
Then are we
out of
going
respect for the rest of the
Then are we
people
going to
in the
make
room.
sure that everybody's wearing them correctly? Because
Certainly.
having them on your chin or under your nose or whatever doesn't count either. So
No, I agree with that. But I have no questions on the declaration. I just wanted that to be in the record that I think out of deference to the people in this room, we should be wearing a mask. That's
sort of
all I
hard to
have.
read when my glasses are all fogged up.
I have
But
the same problem, I know.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Cole? Any question? Anything?
no question.
Trustee Johnson?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Have a roll call, please.
Pierce,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Poland,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, motion's carried. Consideration of ordinance, what's it? Deleting a 1 Class B liquor license together with the ancillary Class B1 and B2 license and creating 1 Class A license along with the A1 ancillary license for Lucky Bernie's, ordinance number 20-10-31. A motion and a second. If you want to waive the second reading, it's up to your motion.
So moved, waiving the second reading.
Second.
Okay, that was motion by trustee Dominiac, second by trustee Johnson. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Mason?
I still would like to see the village make better access to going in and out of that place where they're not going past the medical center through the grocery store to be able to make a left turn going back into town. I'm still, the food operation looks fantastic, the breakfast operation. I just don't like the access in and out of the place. That's, he's gonna get a liquor license tonight, but I would like to see the village moving forward to try to work with the building owner to possibly using some of the business district money to make that connection with the stoplight work, to make it safer for the public.
Good point. Trustee Yost?
No, I would agree with Trustee Masek. I think we should definitely do what we can to help facilitate that, so.
Trustee Dominiac?
I would also concur with Trustee Masek. I think that's important to look into, but I will vote for this because I don't think it's the petitioner's requirement to make that change. I do have one question, though, for the two questions for the petitioner. You realize that as you switch from these B licenses to A, that you no longer can sell packaged. You know that, okay?
He knew that.
And then secondly, I know that you put up a lot of those snipe signs, which are, I think you've been asked not to put those up. I think that it would be really helpful for you to observe that sign code and not put those up anymore.
What signs are those, Mayor?
The little snipe signs that say Lucky Bernie's, and there's like multiple in a row.
Well, the problem
And
we
I know
have-
he's not the only one that
I
does that.
know there's a lot
I
of
understand.
issues out there with that, so.
I'm sorry, and Your Honor,
I know,
if
I'm
could
sorry too.
finish,
So I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that have the same problem.
I understand that, but I'm speaking specifically to this petitioner and would appreciate the fact that, we've made this decision that you would consider removing those and observing the code. I would say the same thing to anybody else that I felt had that issue. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Johnson?
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
Okay,
Mayor,
roll call.
can I make one more comment?
Go ahead.
I've been always pro-business and I'm going to change my vote to a yes vote. And I've heard a lot of things, and I hope you don't do it. Change because the expense of changing a name or whatnot, putting different signs in the windows and doing what other people aren't required to do. I think it's wrong when other people. We're in a COVID world. It's hard to do it's hard to keep the doors open. And for people to sit there, I was kind of sitting there listening to everybody. Maybe you can change your name. Maybe you can do this. It's hard enough to make a dime. So I hope you don't do what other people suggested, change the names. I hope you do whatever you can to bring business into town, into your business, to get, because if we don't bring sales tax revenue in, we're not going to be able to pay for the other things that are important, the police department and whatnot. That's why I changed my opinion. I hope we work with the building owner, but don't change it. If other people are allowed to have, signs in their windows, have a sign in your window. Don't stop just because someone up here says, we suggest you shouldn't have a certain whatever, Pabst Blue Ribbon sign. So that's my only comment. It's hard enough to make a dime. So good luck.
All right, roll call, please.
Here,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes,
Polis,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, the motion's carried. Good. Okay, consideration of a resolution approving a BYOB license for 1111 Cakery. That's resolution 20-44. And the audience doesn't realize what a BYOB is. It's a bring your own bottle. So got that on the table. It's a resolution. I'll need a motion in a second.
so moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Dominiac, second by trustee Pierce. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
Oh, I got no questions tonight, Your Honor.
Okay. Trustee Masek,
No questions, Your Honor.
trustee Yost,
No questions, Your Honor.
trustee Dominiac,
None, Your Honor.
trustee Paulus,
No questions, Your Honor.
and trustee Johnson.
No questions, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Here,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Yost,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes,
Polis,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, this motion is carried. Item 7, there's a consideration of an ordinance approving a development agreement for the townhomes in Deercrest subdivision ordinance number 20-09-29. That would be actually the second reading, correct? from the last meeting. I'll need a motion and a second to get it on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Masek, seconded by trustee Johnson. I know at the last meeting we had, it was brought up for the second reading. And the concern, I believe, at that time was to look at the actual cost. Was there any changes, Jim, to that agreement at all?
There may have been some minor word adjustments. I don't think substantially it's changed at all. There were no changes to the line item costs that were provided. And the only other thing I added, I believe, was a letter from our consultant, HR Green, that also reviewed the costs and recommended that it was sufficient and established the bond amount.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do have, before we go with the trustees, I do have two people here signed up for that item. Mark Tarkowski. Mark, are you basically talking about the agreement, or is there something you like that we haven't heard from the past? Is it the same or is it different? Because obviously you've kind of been hearing the same. Well, that's fine. You have the floor.
All right, thanks for having me here. I know that at our last meeting, our suggestion was to bring our lawyers here from our HOA. However, they are not attending in-person meetings due to the pandemic, but the board has consulted with the attorneys and agrees on a point here, and then I'm going to bring some other items in after that. So, dear Village Board, we understand that you're considering a vote to approve the improvement construction of lots located within the Deer Crest subdivision, which lots are part of the New Haven Master Association and subject to the declarations of covenants, conditions, easements, and restrictions for the New Haven Master Association. Typically approved prior to granting any permits or approves for the construction of improvements on lots within the association. The village has first sought to determine whether the board and/or architectural review committee has approved such improvements. No such efforts have been made with respect to the lots owned by Mr. Mertz and potential construction of improvements, which is the single-family townhomes. I'd like to specifically point out that section 9.11 in the current association declarations provides in relevant as part as follows. No structure, landscaping, or other improvement shall be commenced or allowed on any portion of the property unless it complies with provisions of the declaration and approved by the Board of Architectural Committee. Not only has the board nor the Architectural Committee approved the commitments of construction on these lots, but neither entity has received any application for any such improvement to date. Therefore, it is our hope that our village will clarify whether the village will seek to obtain the Architectural Board Committee review process and has approved the improvement of these lots prior to the village's board approval and or permitting process, or whether the village plans to stray from its historical practice in this regard and approve the construction of these lots without first confirming that the same has been approved by the village, by the association board and our architectural review committee. So that's from the board of directors from the New Haven Master Association, which I'm not president of. And now I'm going to read my own comments based on other things from the FOIA request. I thank the village for the FOIA request documents. I read through the hundreds of pages of FOIA requests. I sent the attorney, the village of Antioch attorney, the rental agreement. Hopefully he received it. So this is on behalf of me personally, not the Masters Association or Homeowner Association. I'm not going to repeat everything from the 23rd. There's a lot of new information from the FOIA request that I found. However, it's still valid, plus the stuff I told on the 23rd. Again, I'd like to thank the FOIA the village for the FOIA request, and also trustee Yost and Dominic for asking more questions about the bond amendment, which is a good thing to ask. First, I'd like to recommend removing any mention of developer in Deercrest neighborhood from the 200929 ordinance, which is going to be passed, or which is going to be talked about tonight. According to the original and current PUD documents, the original developer was Newman Homes for the Deercrest subdivision. No such recorded assignment of rights from the developer to Mr. Mertz, such that now he has no rights to develop. He has no rights to developer. There's no such assignments filed, nothing. So I suggest that to be removed from the ordinance. I also noticed that the Village of Antioch added multifamily housing to the ordinance. I don't have a printout of last printouts. I don't know if there's an update or an ad or it was always there, but I noticed it. The Village of Antioch should ask the homeowners and the HOA if this goes along with the previous document. The homeowners were here first before Mr. Mertz came. This does not comply with the original nor the existing master declarations. Everywhere in all the old documents, the old PUD documents, the existing declarations, and incorporated by reference, the everything is related to single family housing. Nowhere in no documents mentions multifamily housing, but it's in the ordinance tonight, which I don't know why it was added. Again, to change a declaration, it would require 51% vote on the HOA side, and this does not comply with the declarations, which is a big thing, I think. Why I bring up the ARC process, Architectural Review Committee, is because it was documented in the original PUD, Ordinance 990407, with the Village of Antioch that they agreed to well, and the current declarations 9.11. This specific committee is authorized to retain the services of consulting, architects, landscape, etc. of this committee. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but everything is stated here. And again, it mentions the declarant developer shall remain and refer to as Newman Homes Company. It's not, nowhere has it been Troy been converted to that. So I see there's some misalignment here. I'm a little concerned. And this is not just my personal understanding. This is the same understanding of the homeowners I talked to in the subdivision, based on when they bought their homes and where we live. This is all referencing to the 990407 PUD document and accompanies all previous PUD documents from the future. Section 9 says here specifically that the sheets marked Townhome 1, Townhome 2, or TH1, TH2, TH4, depicting single family townhouses prepared by Jesse Fonsby and Associates in conjunction with architecture and planners mentioned that it's single family townhomes. Page 5, section 14, and this is all related back to the 990407 ordinance that was passed by the village. It says that the Deercrest PUD declaration covenants, conditions, and restrictions, draft copy consisting 96 pages, are prepared by Deercrest LLC. Here, at page 70 talks about the ARC process. I'm not going to review that again, but it basically says that there's a board of directors and they have to approve any kind of improvement to the land. Page 80, it again talks about single family homes. Again, nothing about multifamily housing. Page 100 promotes the desired quality and character of the Deercrest community. This is all mentioned in the Architectural Review Committee in the original PUD documents from when the community was developed. Page 116, it continues to talk about that the improvements and or landscaping in order to preserve the natural setting and beauty of the development, to establish and preserve harmonious, aesthetically pleasing design of the development, and to protect and promote the value of the property, lots, dwelling, common areas, and any and all improvements within this development. This is also, there's a sentence in there that it basically renews every 10 years unless it's talked about again. Now that's all they're in the FOIA request that I looked through. There's probably more in there, but that's what I saw. So I walked down where they're being built, and I know that there was a consulting company that evaluated the evaluation of what needs to be done. I saw many large trees going right next to the curb. The curb will need to be removed and the stumps ground down. Trees, they're literally in the middle of the street. There's, I don't have all the estimate specifics, and I'm not a contractor, but I don't know if there's specifics about digging up the street, bring down the stumps, and then fix the road. There's missing streets, sidewalks, sewers, curbs. The curb sewers are completely clogged. There's missing street lights. I don't know how. Maybe 270,000 is enough, but I'm just a little concerned there. And another point. So when we were here in September, Mr. Hanson, you mentioned there's a question whether do you have any affiliation with Mr. Mertz? And your response was no, except a few fundraisers. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So are you aware of a company called Windy City Router?
Yes, I work for Windy City Router as an employee.
Okay, so according to the Illinois Secretary of State, you're actually secretary of the company. So do you have any ownership?
I do not have any ownership at all.
Okay, because that's typically a secretary is the second person in charge of the company, has the ownership in the company.
It's not true.
Okay.
This isn't a trial, Mark.
I know.
So we're not sitting here doing political.
I know.
And here's what I'm going to say, because I'm going to interrupt this little game you're playing, is it's embarrassing for all these folks here that your attorney's not here, and this is the second time. And we do Zoom meetings, and I've never heard of an attorney that will not do a Zoom meeting. And all the stuff you're reading here, with all due respect, you had plenty of time a month to give every trustee a copy you're reading. I can't follow what you're even saying. Page 70, page 69, I can't follow what you're saying. So you had a year, now you had a month to get all us copies to our emails. So I can't even follow what you're saying. And the figures you're given for the performance bond isn't even correct. So I can't follow what you're saying. You came unprepared to this meeting. I feel sorry for every single one of these people that are letting you speak. And why the association board's not here speaking, why the attorney's not here speaking, and we don't have an opinion letter from the attorney is mind-blowing.
Well, he did consult with us, and he's not here because.
But we still could have had an opinion letter from him, and he can't even write a letter during COVID.
Well, this is only a read-only session. You cannot in a Zoom meeting. You cannot contribute. It's listen only.
He couldn't send us an email.
The board worked with him, and that's what provided.
This is I've never witnessed this in the business world, that he can't send us a letter or shoot us an email of what you're reading. It doesn't make sense, because I can't follow along with your reading page. I got nothing to follow along.
Okay. This is all in the original file.
But I understand that, but you didn't send us what you're reading off. You could have sent us all that stuff. Every one of our emails is public. So you could have wasted our time to make us read it, but you didn't.
Ed, you're not getting anywhere with this. I get your point. So let me address you real quick here.
Mm-hmm.
I not only grew up here, Mark, I spent my entire life here, Antioch, and dedicated most of my adult life to community service. I've had 4 jobs my entire career. My very first job was when I was 9 years old as a paper route with a bicycle with a basket on it. My second job was a dishwasher with the old-fashioned way, in a sink with doing it by hand. My third job, I was 16 years old and made it my career, 42 years in retail downtown, dedicated downtown. And yes, I was also the secretary treasurer of that corporation called the Bampac Corporation. Didn't own a dime of that company, okay? Unfortunately, the owner of that business retired. We retired, too young to retire. I'm entitled personally to a job. This particular job is part-time. Everybody sitting here dedicates a lot of hours for very minimal amounts of money. So if you can figure out a way that any of us can sit here and support this community basically with no salary or a stipend, I'm all ears. So obviously, I worked for a gentleman I know for 15 years. He was a customer of mine at my store that I ran for 40 years, and we became friends. Okay? He gave me a great opportunity because I was too young to retire. And he gave me the flexibility to do my job as mayor. So I have free reign to still do this particular job when I need to. So I'm appalled at the fact that I can't have a position in this community. It's not against the law. It's my right. And that's all I'm going to say is for you to even bring that up. You can find anybody that's going to have ownership, or not even ownership, but be on anybody's board. And that's what I do.
The residents were just concerned with conflict of interest.
There's no
and-
conflict.
Well, that's what the residents were concerned about.
Okay. But
And-
I
and
do have
voting.
entitled to a position. And I am entitled to work and have a job. That's all I can say. Okay?
Okay. So I'll provide you my notes, but there's, I have other notes on here, but it isn't. I mean, I could read them if you want, but if you want me to read them, I could, but.
We can take them as part of the record, Mark.
What?
Why don't we just take them as part of the record and
Can you send them to me?
maybe
Yeah.
send them to Lori
When
and
you
the board.
distribute
can-
them out to us,
board
Lord,
can read them.
some of us would like to hear from our residents.
So,
Could you repeat what you said, trustee Pierce? I can't hear you.
I asked her to distribute them out to us.
Thank you.
Mark, just one more clarification real quick. You had mentioned earlier on that we would be voting on this development. Actually, what we are voting on tonight is not a development, it's just a development agreement for the infrastructure. That's really the document that we're actually voting on. That's all we're voting on tonight. This has nothing to do with the fact that the townhomes are being built. This thing you're commenting on, we're just doing an agreement that protects the village to make sure that we have the actual coverage for the infrastructure.
I'm totally fine with the coverage. I'm totally fine with the bond, but there are concerns. The multifamily housing mentioned in there and about developer and the Deer Crest subdivision. I think those things should be reworded a little bit to make it a little bit more clear that, right now, in my opinion, from what I read, it's not, there's just some things that I think could be improved.
Okay, I'm going to ask the attorney to address that, Bob. Maybe you can at least clarify some of the terminology since
Be
you are the
happy to,
attorney.
Your Honor. To be clear, the only change from the document that was provided at the last meeting was the insertion of a parenthetical phrase in the very first whereas, which now reads, and I'll read the parentheses. Whereas the Village of Antioch, a municipal corporation existing under the laws of the state of Illinois, known as the Village, previously entered into a development agreement. Here's where the parenthesis comes in. Originally known as the Public Infrastructure Agreement for Special Service Area Number 1, Deer Crest, AKA New Haven and 55 acres, close parenthesis. That's the only change that I made to that document between last month and this month. There is a phrase in here in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the third whereas, which reads, whereas the lands referred to in the development agreement were partially improved with roads, sewer, water lines, and other utilities, as well as a number of single-family homes, as well as a more limited number of multifamily townhomes. That's a reference to what was in the development agreement to start with. It doesn't change anything. It's not an operative part of the agreement. If your attorney thinks it changed in your discussions with them, you could better go back and talk to them, because this is simply a recitation of what there had been. That is my term because I'm trying to distinguish between detached single-family housing and attached single-family housing in multi-unit townhouses. That's all that means. It is not a description that doesn't increase. And in fact, the development agreement that's in here is very specific that it does not change the density that had already been approved back almost 20, in fact, more than 20 years ago under the original PUD in 1999. Specifically, that development agreement remains in full force and effect as it was at that point in time. And the only modifications that can take place are those that come before the village board following public notice and all the approvals and all the publications and the rest of it that are required by law. And that's what the protections of this document were intended to do, is to protect everybody's interest, to make sure that you didn't end up with the additional density that was the original concern of the people when the lawsuit was originally filed back in the early 2000s, and the county boards tried to stop the development itself. This is not a perfect settlement. It is as good a settlement as they could get at the time. And the fact that I refer to multi-unit townhouses just means that more than one family lives in a block of 4 or 5 or 6 townhouses. It doesn't make them apartments filled with multiple groups of people. It doesn't do anything like that. It's an observation, and it's not an operative part of the document.
I just don't understand the rationalization of changing that verbiage on documents from the previous history.
I didn't change anything, Mr. Tarkowski. You're not listening to me then. You're not hearing what I'm saying. I didn't change anything. I simply observed that there were some townhouses were built, and they have several families living within each building, and the building contains several units. That's what that says.
Does that answer your question?
Okay.
All right. Okay, anything else? Mark, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Max Davenport, 593 Drownport.
I'm going to try to give some clarity to some of Mark's concerns in the HOA. And first, I want to say good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees, and village residents. My name is Max Davenport. I'm a 20-year resident here in town, property owner as well. I came to this village board meeting tonight to clear up some hearsay and some falsehoods here in the village by residents, business owners, elected officials, and my relationship with our current mayor. Larry Hansen has been rumored on several occasions about Mayor Hansen's position in my plumbing company and his possible involvement in my property at 510 Main Street. It has been rumored that Mayor Hansen is the owner or part owner of my plumbing company, Windy City Rooters. And I want to say on the record, all those assumptions and accusations are absolutely false. I'm the sole owner of my company, and Mayor Hansen is on my board of directors. Not because of his position here in the village, but as a valued, successful individual, as record speaks for itself. Mayor Hansen, known as Larry at his place of employment with me, has been working for me for about 4 years. He's been a friend, confidant for about 15 years. He's been a customer of mine as well. Mr. Hansen's duties range from cleaning restrooms to construction manager to occasional financial advisor when needed. The flexibility Larry has in my place to accommodate his obligation to the elected position of mayor in the village, which, by the way, only pays $12,000 a year, hardly enough to make a living. But Larry does not take responsibility here in the village because he's in it for the money. He's a lifelong resident, along with the rest of his family, and he has determination, passion, love for the village and its residents. He makes the village his top priority, and by the way, so do I. I'm not politically driven. I'm community driven because of Larry Hansen. By the way, thank you, Mr. Hansen. He's taught me that community is important no matter what your position in the village is. It takes all kinds to make up a good community, from the children in our schools, teachers that teach them, business owners, elected officials, and our tax-paying residents, and our renters as well. We all make up this community we live in, and it takes all kinds to keep it right. As a business owner here in Antioch, I'm not given any special privileges, favors, or treatments because Larry works for me, nor do I expect any. I have learned to be more empathetic, passionate, and charitable because of Larry Hansen. He has showed me in his own actions, and I've paid attention. He's a mentor to me, but not an owner of my company. He is a friend, community leader, and respected by many. He's even a historian, a lifelong resident, cares deeply about this town. So if you're looking to smear Larry Hansen, you'll be hard-pressed finding anything. He's a true leader, and those true leaders lead by example. I've had great success from his examples of leadership. He is the mayor that shovels residents' driveways during punishing snowstorms without looking for praise. He does it because he's selfless and cares about people. If you didn't know that, you know now. He is the first to arrive at my shop each morning, right around 3:30. No matter what task is given to him, he rises to the occasion without complaint. From cleaning restrooms, clearing out multiple vehicles that have snow all over them from the night before, to gassing up all the vehicles before anybody arrives. I appreciate the example he set for my staff, and I greatly value him as an employee. Mayor Hansen takes both his jobs very seriously, and his love for his family and community speaks for itself. He's taught me that sometimes tough decisions have to be made, but do it with integrity. Don't be smug or arrogant. And lastly, put community first. I can go on about Larry Hansen, mentor, employee, friend, and client, but I think I've said enough. I want to close this statement with my property at 510 Main Street and clarify that I'm the sole owner of the property. I did not apply for a cannabis license, nor am I in the cannabis business. Larry has no connections, ties, or interest in my property. He's never even been there since I purchased it. But the rumors fly, accusations are made, and none of it is true. I bought that property with the intentions of putting my plumbing company there, because my lease is just about up where I'm at. I want to thank Mayor Hansen and the board for giving me this opportunity tonight to speak and give these clarifications on record. So for the love of community, please put these rumors to rest. And you can guarantee that I, Max Davenport, will be transparent for the love of community and respect for the truth. I ask everyone to stay safe and be well. And remember, it takes a lot more than one individual to make a great country and or community. It takes all of us. I also want to clarify on the Deer Crest project. I was hired by Troy Mertz to inspect the infrastructure, which has been done. Videos have been submitted to the village for their approval. I have no part in the building of that community either. Thank you for your time tonight.
It's 3:30 a.m. 3:30 a.m.
Thank you. Let's see, now we have a motion and a second for the approval of the resolution, of the ordinance, the ordinance for Deer Crest. Any other questions? Trustee Pierce?
The infrastructure. You had HR Green go out there and look. I'm not an engineer, so I get very confused when I go out there and I look and I'm like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. You know, so I'm very concerned about the bond amount. And back to Mr. Tarkowski, you know, unfortunately, whatever the history of the PUD is, tonight's issue is the bond and voting on the bond. I mean, there's always going to be questions on New Haven. Somebody asked me, I was talking with somebody about it, and they're like, oh, I can't wait till this New Haven thing is over. Or something else was over, and I misunderstood him. I said, yeah, New Haven, 20 years ago I was here. It was the first thing I had to deal with when I got on the board. And it's 20 years later, I'm still dealing with New Haven. So there's a lot of issues in New Haven that always seem to pop up and come to fruition there. And tonight's issue, unfortunately, isn't whether it's the PUD can be approved or the permits can be issued or whatever. The issue before us is this bond amount. I'm concerned about the bond amount. I don't know if it's enough. I just don't know.
That's all I have to say.
Trustee Masek.
Well, if it's the engineer that we use for other projects, why don't we fire HR Green, Trustee Pierce? That's our trusted engineering firm. We get another engineer that substitute for our administrator so we got 2 engineering reports on it. So we might as well get rid of both of them that we can't please on the engineering reports.
Trustee Masek?
So
I appreciate your
I'm
input.
speaking,
I don't
thank
care
you.
if you're speaking, you're sitting here
That's fine.
bullying me.
I'm speaking. So we got two independent engineer reports on it, and everybody keeps going on the engineering reports. I asked for the second engineering report just to validate what our village administrator, who also holds an engineering license, came up with that report. So I got the second engineering report, asked them for it, so everybody can validate. Nothing's enough. You can have a handful of pennies, still not enough. Law says what you can have, and we've got people with 2 engineering licenses, and you can sit there and say, hey, it might not be enough. It's just like an insurance policy. You got 2 insurance policies, but there might be different, but you get 2 licensed people that say that's enough. So either we're going to take this to the table and find a new engineering firm, or we're going to trust people with licenses. That's all I got to say.
Trustee Yost.
I just wanted, just one point of clarification. This is for Attorney Long. Again, obviously we need to have a bond in place. This vote is for a bond, but just with regard to some of the questions that have been raised, can you just clarify for me, is there anything within the ordinance or Exhibit A that would change the PUD in any way that would release the developer from adhering to the deed restrictions that are in place?
No, there's nothing in my development or in this agreement that I drafted that has any effect whatsoever on any of the underlying documents or whatever the relationship between the owners and the association, the master association, the townhome association. It's completely silent on all of those issues. That's entirely appropriate. It is left for them. It's a matter of private contract between them to resolve.
Thank you.
Anything else? Trustee Yost.
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. And I didn't play with trucks and do roads when I was a kid. I was playing with dolls, so I don't understand road repair. But what I do have a question, Administrator Keim, is I did drive over there and look at the road with my husband, who is an engineer, by the way. And it just looks like that road is in really bad shape and it's been laying fallow for 20 years. Can you help me understand the difference between what is going to be done over there versus what we're doing with our road program? Because those costs are substantially greater. So I'm trying to understand why the road program for basically, I figured it's about a third of a mile over there. We drove around, kind of calculated, it was about a third of a mile. So if I look at what we're spending for the road program, a third of a mile is about $140,000. And here we're putting in 43 to surface it, and then 10,000 for tree removal and repair. So could you help me to understand why we're not doing over there what we're doing somewhere else in the village? My concern being that down the road, if we're not doing the kind of work we should be doing, will the taxpayers then have to pay to redo that road?
Certainly. The quantities that exist in New Haven don't add up to more money is the simple answer. So the road repair, there's a line item there for road repair. That would be full depth road repair. So where there is vegetation that's come up either on curb line or just outside of curb line or in the roadway, they'll have to remove that roadway. If there's a root ball or something like that, they'll have to remove it and basically do what we call a full depth patch. So that's what that road repair amount is for. I believe there's about $60,000 in curb repair, removal and replacement. So we see, a significant amount of that. And then the 40, I think it's 43,000. I don't have it right in front of me right now.
43, right, for the asphalt?
$43,000 for the surface. So there's over $100,000 in that estimate to repair the road and bring it up to standard. It's my belief that those are reasonable quantities, reasonable costs. And we, can I, 100% guarantee, that we won't find something else? No, but based on everything we've done in the past and everything we've seen in other subdivisions in similar condition, I believe it is a sufficient amount. What we're doing on the road program, certainly involves some curb removal and replacement. But it also involves grinding and removal of surface, which doesn't need to occur. Like right now in Windmill Creek, they're removing pavement with basically a grinding or milling machine. That's not required in this situation because the final lift was never put on. So there will be some differences between what happens on a road program where we resurface roadways within the village. There will be similarities and there will be differences. So, the amount we feel is sufficient for the road repair, but maybe the difference you're noticing, if it's slightly more to, do curb R&R and resurface in a subdivision, it may be related to the fact that you have to remove surface. In this case, we don't. So it will be slightly less on a per mile basis.
Thank you. I wasn't questioning the amounts. I was just trying to understand why there would be that difference. So thank you for that explanation. And then the other question that I had in the document, a couple of them, point number 11, it says that we're going to get the public improvements, the estimated cost, which we have, and the timing of completion. Do you have that? For each improvement, that's what it says in this development agreement. Providing a line item for the projected cost for each of the foregoing improvements subject to review and approval by the village engineer. The line item shall identify the public improvement, the estimated cost, and the timing of completion for each improvement. Do you have that? Because we don't. As long as you have it, I'm happy.
I don't have a detailed schedule of when they will be laying down pavement or doing the curb R&R work. We have what's referred to there as the basic triggers that we have in this agreement, that by so much occupancy, they will do certain things. So what we're really after is to make sure there's a trigger for the developer to perform. So we don't want him to actually put down surface until 75% of the occupancy has been obtained. So that's what it's referring to is that stuff. I will get, before they perform repair, I'll probably get, at least a notice or a schedule of when they're out there, so we'll have the opportunity to inspect. But at this time, we don't know if 75% occupancy is going to be in June or in July or August. So I don't have dates of when specific things are going to be done. We're just after to make sure the developer's on the hook to perform in certain timeframes, and those are triggered by occupancy.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, the $250,000 is the cost estimate. H.R. Green says the surety bond should be $274,400 something. This document says these bonds will either be the existing $250,000 bonds that are currently in place and on file with the village, or they will replace and or supplement that bond. That language is still confusing to me. Maybe you can help me with that, Attorney Long, why it doesn't have 274. It says that in the staff report, in the request for board action, but in the document itself, it says 250.
No, what it was referring to was the original estimate that we had a bond in place for $250,000, and it's up to the board here to set the amount of the bond. That's what the purpose of the primary purpose underneath this agreement is. And what I was talking about there, the bonds will either be the existing bonds that have been on file for a while, or they will replace them, or they will add a supplementary bond for another $25,000 or whatever amount they come up with. That flexibility leads to the more complex language because there have to be disjunctives there.
So if that's the case and you want us to vote tonight to approve this development agreement and the amount of the bond, shouldn't this document reflect 200? I mean, because I thought it was supposed to be 110% of the estimated cost, which would be the 275. So it seems to me that should be in this document. So before I vote on that, I'd like some clarification, and if that's an amendment to this document, that would be helpful. Can we do that?
I mean, if you want to put it in there, I guess you can.
Well, the requirement
It
is
says it's going to be
110%.
110% of the engineer's estimate of probable cost. Now you've got that EOPC, which we didn't have when I wrote this document.
So what would it take to just put that in there? Or maybe the rest of the board is comfortable with this. I would be more comfortable if we had the actual number in there. Where do you see that 110% in this document? I don't see that.
Performance bonds required by the village's building code and the subdivision ordinance and WDO.
Right, but it's not in this
That's,
document.
I understand that, but that's where the 110% comes from.
Right.
That's in our existing code. You don't want to change the existing code.
No, I don't want to
I'm
change
just
the code.
referring it, bringing it in by reference. It's like saying under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution or as required by the municipal code in giving you a site.
Well, I'm not comfortable without putting the actual number in, but I can determine my vote when it's time. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Trustee Polis,
No questions, Your Honor.
trustee Johnson.
I do not have any questions either, Your Honor.
I just want to add one thing, just for a little history. The original development, and I was part of from 1999 when we sat at the high school till 1:30 in the morning with the original court order. And that was a lot tougher than these meetings, believe me. But I just want to go back to when Newman went bankrupt. There was this village, and some people are sitting on this board right now, that took the steps to hire probably the top attorney in the country to get every dime and penny that was deserved to both Cloveland's and New Haven. And I think we did a pretty good job doing that because the bonds were covered. From my understanding, these bonds, the reason you put the bonds together is in case they do exactly that, they go belly up. Hopefully, he'll have a lot of these improvements already made, and I believe the bond stays the same because hopefully he's going to do a lot of the infrastructure. I think he already did some of the village side of the infrastructure, but as far as roads, curbs, and lighting, you would hope that we'll never have to use this bond. So again, I'd like to go back and see if there's ever been a point in time where we changed, because Bob's been the attorney since 2001. And I think every agreement and every agreement like this has probably been written the same way. So I think we were covered back then. And I think if we approve this the way it is, I think we'll be covered today. So all of a sudden we're trying to reinvent how these things are done. So give faith in our staff, give faith in our engineering firms, because quite frankly, I felt pretty bad the other night when we basically took our staff and said, hey, we don't trust you. And that to me is really a slap in the face to our staff that works diligently and hard. So again, I take Ed Basic's comment to say, hey, if we don't believe in our administrator, if we don't believe in what his job is and what HR Green that's been with this village for probably 15 or 18 years, then maybe it's time we move on and the board's got to pick some new people. That's all I have to say. Trustee Pierce.
I want to follow up here. I appreciate what the mayor said, and he is correct. We did step in and I was here, the mayor was here, and other people were here when New Haven went broke, and we did spend a lot of time, effort, and treasures out of the village coffers to make New Haven and Clubland as whole as we could. Unfortunately, as I said, New Haven just seems to keep coming back to the village board. That being said, as a trustee, and I'll direct this directly to Trustee Masick, I have the right to ask questions. I have the right to say what is going on. I have a right to ask questions of the village staff. I have a right. And for you to sit there and try to intimidate me and bully me is wrong.
Scott,
So I'm sorry, I'm speaking. You spoke and I shut up. Now I'm speaking. You bully people at this board. Mr. Tarkowski stood up there. He is a resident. We may not agree with what he said, but he has a right to stand up there and speak. He has a right to be treated respectfully. He has a right to be treated and allowed to say what he says. unless it's illegal. Everybody has a right to speak here, and I have a right to ask questions. I'm going to continue to do that no matter how much you try to bully me. So that's all I'm going to say. You can say whatever you want to now, Ed.
I don't bully people, Scott. You sit there and I'll quote you. Well, I'm driving through Michigan. This community service director, I wish we had him hired at the village. Scott, I'm not going to take your comments, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to stand up for staff. It's embarrassing.
Okay.
You vote more things, don't want to pay staff bills. It's embarrassing. Start giving explanation to your no votes.
Okay, so we have a vote, please.
Actually, I just have one follow-up question, and Your Honor, it was actually something you said that triggered it. Can we just clarify, as the project is being completed, the bond does not reduce? So
No, it stays the same.
a part of the, let's say, the curb is done, we still hold that 250 no matter what, right? Just want to.
No, as they complete infrastructure improvements, that bond amounts can be reduced per ordinance.
But they have to ask for it, and it has to be.
And we have to
formally
prove
approved.
that.
It has to be inspected. I mean, I wouldn't just blanket say you would have to approve it if we're not happy with the construction, or we don't feel it's sufficient, or if we think there needs to be more that needs to happen. I wouldn't recommend to this board that you would reduce that bond.
Okay.
But on the other hand, if they find a serious problem as they're going through it and the scope of the work increases significantly, we may have to re-ask them to post additional bonds. And that's all within those codes that are referred to by reference. That's one of the primary reasons I didn't want to put a number in there, because then you're capped.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Your Honor?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, trustee.
Yeah, I would just also like to clarify that, I have complete confidence in staff. So if I ask a question, it's not because I don't trust them or don't think they know what they're doing, trying to get clarity for myself if I'm not clearly understanding something, or for the residents to understand why we're doing what we're doing. So, Jim, I'd like to make sure that you and your staff know that I do trust in your capabilities. Thank you. That's all I
Okay.
am.
Thank you. I'll take roll, please.
Here,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dominique,
Yes,
Paula,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
6 voting yes, this motion is carried. And that's carried for just for the approval of the agreement. Okay, next, consideration of an ordinance granting a variance from required landscape buffers for 574 Dwight Court, Antioch, Illinois, 20-08 SPRV, ordinance number 20-10-32.
move to approve waiving the second reading.
Okay, motion made by trustee Dominiac. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Masek. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, trustee Masek,
No questions, Your Honor.
trustee Yost,
Yeah, no question, Your Honor.
trustee Dominiac.
The only question I had, Jim, was on stormwater. You don't have any concerns about the impervious nature of that asphalt and
It
You're okay
doesn't
with
meet the threshold for a detention system. So as long as it's pitched appropriately and the water runs to where it needs to run to, and there's some storm sewer proposed to connect to a storm, I don't have concerns as long as it's constructed as designed on their engineering plans.
thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Pauls,
No question.
trustee Johnson.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Jim, you got anything, guys?
I do have some slides if you want to see them.
Take a peek at it. Sure.
Properties on Dwight. It's an M zone property. And I'm using Michael's staff report here, so forgive me if I don't have all the facts on the matter, but I have familiarized myself with the property, and we can just kind of go through the slides here so the people here at least can see what we're doing. So there's the site plan. There's an existing building on the property. They would like to improve the property with additional parking surfaces or storage for boats. I believe the company's in business to detail boats. They're requesting, I guess the key item on this agenda item would be the variance. They're asking for a variance of, it's typically a 40-foot buffer versus residential from a manufacturing zone. And there is a R5 residential parcel to the east of this site. So the request is to go from 40 to 10 on the landscape buffer with the installation of landscaping, trees, evergreens, and an opaque fence. So it's depicted on this slide.
You're good, Jim.
In this area, this would constitute a 40-foot buffer, and 10-foot would be this right here. So in this area, there are some residential units. They're pretty well screened today with trees, but what they have produced a landscape plan which would show how they would like to screen this property from the residential to create the use which is allowable in the M zoning. And that's the landscape plan. This is what the property looks like today. And you can kind of see on the right there that there is a very small view of the residential, which is why we'd like to screen it in the fashion that's being proposed. Here you see on the left, Dwight and the building that exists. On the right is behind that building. And then here's an overview of the property as it exists. So there's manufacturing to the south of the property. There is some residential in the area, but I think some of that residential is actually zoned manufacturing. So you may see some residential in there, but the zonings are actually manufacturing. So not to take up too much of the time here on this item, we do have a site plan that was, I believe, unanimously approved at PZB.
That's correct.
And we have a development plan that I've seen that looks good for the improvements on the site. So staff is recommending approval of this with that variance.
If this is helpful, several of the neighbors were there too and expressed that they were happy with this.
So actually, it sounds like he's improving it from where it is. Obviously, you use it as it is right now, right, Chad? I mean, you're parking boats on it as we speak. You have been. So you're just trying to make it better. You take that grass area, that's going to be asphalted also on the. Okay.
And you are in agreement with the 4 additional trees?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we definitely want to improve the property and do whatever landscaping is desired.
Because whatever you're doing is going to be a big improvement to what it looks like.
100%.
Okay. Trustee Pierce, anything?
Oh, no, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek?
Nope, I think it's gonna be good.
Trustee Yost?
Yeah, Attorney Long answered my question already.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Dominiac?
I'm good.
Trustee Pauls?
No questions.
Trustee Johnson?
Yeah, no questions, Your Honor.
Okay, that being said, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, motion's carried. Consideration of a resolution approving the site plan for 574 Dwight Court, Resolution 20-45.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Trustee Dominiac,
Second.
second by Trustee Johnson. Any questions? Trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Mason?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None.
Trustee Paulus?
No questions.
And Trustee Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, this motion is carried. You're good. Okay, consideration of an ordinance annexing certain properties commonly known as 41062 North Illinois Route 83, 41074 North Illinois Route 83, and 23512 West Beach Grove Road, ordinance number 20-10-33. I'll need a motion in a second, if you'd like to waive it. Second, please. This is the one we just had the hearing on.
Move to approve waiving the second reading.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee
Second.
Dominiac, and I have a second by trustee Masek. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
Do we have any future plans coming up with this annexation, or is this just an annexation for future possibilities?
Yeah, the question is there a development plan? And the answer is no, there is no development plan that's been submitted to us. It's simply an annexation of existing property in an existing condition. And the property is depicted on the screen right now. It's on the corner of Beech Grove Road and Route 83. You can see the motel in the area, just so we have a reference point. The Dupree Motel is in this location. And it also contains this parcel of land, which is either is it a tax accountant or an attorney in there now? For years, it was Lasco. Yeah. So it's those two properties. I think there may be three PIN, but it's really two uses. And they are requesting B zoning from the village for submission of a future plan conforming to of the business zoning that would be established.
Is it contiguous going northbound, or is it coming across the street
It's contiguous to the east.
to the east? Okay.
Across the street.
And Jim, this was requested by them, not by us, right?
Correct. This was a petition, a annexation and zoning petition to the village from these property owners.
They will expired. Okay, anything from trustee?
Yeah, this is good news to have control of our borders, because our building codes are tougher than Lake County, so this is good news.
Trustee Yost?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
My one question is to trustee Mason's point about our code being stronger than the county. Is the petitioner here?
No.
Okay. Does the petitioner have to meet, if we annex this property in, I mean, does the petitioner then have to meet our codes
Our
for
codes.
public safety? And
Yes.
Yes.
so do they know that if we annex in that hotel and that they're subject to our inspection and
I can't speak to what they know. I know they petitioned for annexation,
Yeah,
and
they'll
I
be
know they are
inspected.
subject to all of our codes and ordinances.
Yeah, what happens here though is if they don't annex, trustee Dominiac, they won't get access to sewer and water, and they won't be able to effectively develop their property. And that's the trade-off that you make.
okay.
I know that Mr. Garrigan spoke with both of the petitioners at extensively about what it really meant and how involved it would be.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
there's at least one attorney involved on the petitioner side too. So there was conversations from their own counsel.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Trustee Polis?
No questions, Your Honor.
And trustee Johnson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, there are no no's, motion's carried. Consideration of ordinance granting B2 zoning for the properties commonly known as 41062 North Illinois Route 83, 41074 North Illinois Route 83, and 23512 West Beech Grove Road in Antioch, Illinois, PZB 20-03 AA/RZ, ordinance number 2010-34.
Make a motion to approve as presented,
Waiving the second reading.
waiving the second reading.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay, it's motion by trustee Pierce, seconded by trustee Yost. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Mason?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Paulus?
No, Your Honor.
And trustee Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
6 voting yes, no no's, motion's carried. Consideration of a resolution approving a settlement agreement with Comcast of Illinois, a 12 LLC in the amount of $18,273.59, resolution number 20-46. Jim, you want to explain that a little bit, just so we?
Yes,
Go ahead.
in
Okay,
2019, we engaged Asafar Auditing Solutions to audit our revenues, including our franchise fee agreement. We joined 10 other municipalities to do so. And the audit revealed that there were some addresses that were not listed in Comcast's database as addresses within the village limits. Also, there was a little bit of confusion about the interpretation of gross revenues, so that was clarified. And the end result is that Comcast has decided it would be too expensive on their end to audit all 11 municipalities. So they've agreed to reimburse us at $1.70 per subscriber for the errors and the omissions. That's total of $18,273.59. So what is before you is to accept that proposal from Comcast.
Okay, I'll need a motion and a second. If you want to get it on the floor.
So
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Masek, second. Did I hear trustee Dominiac? Polis, trustee Polis? Okay, any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek?
no questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Polis?
No, Your Honor.
And trustee Johnson?
No, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paulus,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
6 voting yes, there are no no's, motion's carried. Consideration of ordinance authorizing the village administrator to sell, salvage, or otherwise dispose of equipment, or ordinance number 20-10-35. Need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Is that waiving the second reading?
Yes.
Okay, motion-
Second.
Motion by trustee Polis, second by trustee Dominiac, waiving the second reading. Any questions, trustee Pierce?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Mason?
No questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Yost?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Dominiac?
None, Your Honor.
Trustee Polis?
No questions, Your Honor.
And trustee Johnson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
Paulus,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
6 voting yes, motion is carried. The administrator report, anything to mention?
I would just like to make the board aware that the road program is moving along at a fairly quick pace. There was a lot of work going on in the Windmill Creek subdivision with the curb work. And I sent you a message about the mail delivery there. And I went through it personally. There was no way a mail truck could have gotten to the mailboxes there when that work was going on. So I don't necessarily blame the post office for stopping delivery there. Typically doesn't happen. When we do, this is the first time in I don't know how many years I've run into this one as far as road resurfacing, but the good news is they got in and they got out. And I went through again today, and 95% of the work as far as curb repair is done. And they're milling those roads. They were milling those roads today. You're also going to see the bike path construction begin this week. Might be a little wet right now, but they were tentatively scheduled to begin earthwork Wednesday. I haven't heard otherwise, so I'm expecting this week to see the initial earthwork move on the repair of the bike path. And we are also hoping that the Village Hall project will be starting this week as well. So I have an appointment with that contractor to get hopefully get the demo work done that needs to happen for the Village Hall. So all of a sudden we're in project season and there's a lot happening out there in the field. So we're keeping track of it, and we just want to make the board aware that those things are happening.
Thank you, Jim.
Phyllis Clerk?
I don't know.
Okay, trustee reports. Trustee Pierce.
As we know, the chief of police has been doing a good job of keeping us up to date on when incidences occur. So I just want to tell him thank you for that. Additionally, to Trustee Masek's safety concern on 173, maybe we could also have the state review the speed limit there, because I know if I go down Route 83, a lot of their commercial area has been changed to like 35 miles an hour. And maybe we could look at from where the houses are Eagles Nest to past the cleaner, I mean, the car wash being changed to like 35 miles an hour or something. And that may help with safety too while we're waiting to work out something with the owner. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Trustee Mason.
Yeah, I gave everybody the hard work Dennis is doing at Public Works. Just want to point out some stuff here. Senior Center repainted, handicap signs installed at the mini park, rear parking lot, trees trimmed on Lake Street, trees trimming on Main Street, removed the hanging baskets and the flags downtown, repairs at Mary's Park gazebo, and weed remover at Tops parking lot. So you can read the rest of them on there. Great job with Public Works.
Thank you. Trustee Yost?
Nothing here.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Dominion?
Just to add to Trustee Mason's report, and you may have reported on this last time, but didn't Public Works also help with the Rotary Park and cleaning that up? And did we talk about that last time? Maybe the gazebo came down? Yeah, okay. The only thing I have is a question that I'm hoping we can address, which came up in the Economic Development Task Force. Two of the businesses that are on Lake Street had brought to the task force a couple times the question about the semis that are seemingly increasing in number on Lake Street. And so we had a discussion about whether or not we can put some signs up. I did look at the ordinance, and our truck route ordinance does include Lake Street. However, it does also stipulate that the village administrator can designate sections of these truck routes that might be susceptible to damage because of weight, to restrict weight. You can also restrict based on public safety. So I would like us to investigate that a little bit further and see what it is that we can do. You know, we are going to repave Lake Street. We're trying to encourage a lot more people to be downtown. We're going to do projects with crosswalks, and these semis are coming by, and they're heavy, and they are potentially a public safety issue. So I would like us to move forward on coming up with a plan for how to restrict that traffic. If it requires a change of the ordinance, or if we can just give the village administrator the authority, which is already in the ordinance.
Just so you know, we did address it. Jim and I had a meeting on that immediately after that meeting, and I think you're already working on it. You already contacted Bob.
Yes, Your Honor, and Trustee Dominiak. I've asked our engineering firm for an evaluation of weight restrictions. Specifically, I think the trucks that people are most concerned with are the gravel trucks, and they are very heavy. Not only on Lake, but there's been complaints on Tiffany and North. Gravel seems to be moving east on 173 and making its way through the village on its way to Wisconsin. We'd much prefer they stay on the state routes of 173 and 83. So I'd ask the engineers to, help us evaluate a make sense weight limit on those streets that would prevent that heavier truck traffic, but would still allow deliveries to our businesses or a moving truck or something like that. So I hope to have a recommendation for you in the future, and I would prefer it be codified, some kind of an ordinance be placed, so when we put the signs up, they can be enforceable and all that. It shouldn't be something that's discretionary. I mean, I think the ordinance does give me some discretion, but I prefer to have some standards that are clear in the ordinance. So I hope to have that coming for you at a future meeting.
Great, thank you. I wasn't aware of that, but thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Paulus?
Nothing, Your Honor.
And Trustee Johnson?
Yeah, nothing, Your Honor.
Okay, only thing I have tonight, Jim, is now that we're with our social media, I know that we talked at our last meeting that the village is going to start, handling the meetings and stuff and doing some of those things. And sometimes you read some of the comments, and we put it right in there, the clarity that we aren't responding to those things. But some of those things I'd like to be able to at least somewhere along the line, because you read some of them and it's really hard not to answer them, but we really don't want to get into a dialogue. But I noticed on the our chamber building that there's some questions about using local contractors and things like that. So we should probably put a statement out there claiming that we do go out for bids on these things and things like that. And a lot of times you don't even get local contractors even bidding on it. I know on the chamber building, we actually went out and seeked a couple local ones that didn't give us even bids. So again, we read these things as elected officials and we feel bad because, it's hard for us to answer those things, and sometimes it comes across as we don't care about the local contractors that we do. So I don't know how we're going to address that, but maybe it's just a question I asked. So I don't know.
Actually, kind of tied to that, I thought at the last call we talked about that in order to avoid any potential restraining of anybody up here to be able to post something, that the briefing room got reactivated so that we don't post agendas and we don't post recaps, et cetera. But I noticed today that there was one of the board members had posted the agenda. So did I miss something? Did that change?
No.
Okay, so we're still saying that the village should push that information out and that we should not be on an individual basis putting that stuff out. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anything else from the audience, anybody? Not. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, Pierce and, all in favor?
Aye.